you doing? This is Adam Post. Today we're talking about Disney. Disney's woke CEO Bob Iger is refusing to leave the company. He ruined Marvel, he ruined Pixar, he ruined Star Wars, and everything great about Disney. He's supposed to be leaving December of 2024, but he doesn't want to leave and he's going to be seeking an extension to his contract. He should leave. He's done enough damage and he does not understand what needs to be done on the creative side or even on the business side to do anything good with Disney anymore. He did save the company from Bob Chapek, who he appointed as CEO essentially. He recommended Bob Chapek. That was Bob Iger's fault in the first place, and he was better than having Bob Chapek stay in control. But now he's completely ruining what's left of Disney and really needs to go. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate you guys. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. According to a report, Disney CEO Bob Iger is trying to extend his contract beyond 2024. Disney CEO Bob Iger has reportedly decided to stay with the company beyond his current contract, which was originally set to expire in December 2024, but even Wall Street's finest can only make their best guesses as to why Iger and Disney may have come to such a decision. I can tell you why he came to that decision, because everything, literally everything is going wrong at Disney. Most recently, we found out that the theme parks were not well attended on July 4th. They had been taking the theme parks for granted, and they really were a cash cow, doing very well for Disney and very hard for other entertainment companies to compete with, because it's a theme park. You can't just throw a theme park up in competition easily with Disney. Of course, Universal has had success and continues to have success competing with Disney, but Disney is really the king of theme parks, except when people stop going to the theme parks. But beyond that, the destruction of their brands, their films aren't making money. There's a lot of problems at Disney, and Iger isn't doing anything to fix or address them. He feels like he has to stay at Disney because he needs to keep it together for as long as possible until things turn around. But it's not going to work because you need to actually take very strong action to resolve the business and creative issues at Disney. Even if someone had the idea that they wanted Disney to stay woke, which is a terrible idea and a tremendous difficult tax on the businesses, it's not something that drives the businesses. It doesn't create income for the businesses. It hurts all of the businesses. But there are things you could do business-wise to run stuff better than Bob Iger is running his multiple divisions of Disney, and he has absolutely no idea of how to do it. For example, there is no reason to have a separate Lucasfilm and a separate Pixar and a separate Marvel studio operations. They could be consolidating those operations much more aggressively, which is what CFO Christine McCarthy wanted to do at Disney, who now has been kicked out of Disney because she wanted to have more layoffs and she was being very vocal about it. So Bob Iger needed to ask her to leave. With the CFO leaving, you're not going to have the CEO leaving at the end of December 2024. This is just a report, and of course, it's just speculation. I don't have anyone inside of Bob Iger's house calling me like his wife saying, "Hey, it's me, Willow Iger." I don't have any secret sources. I'm just telling you, you're not going to have the CFO leave at a company and then the CEO leave. That implies tremendous instability in a company, and they're not going to have that. Bob Iger doesn't want that for his fancy schmancy legacy. But the way you could address some of this would be continue the massive layoffs. If you're going to be pushing the agenda through all of your brands, there's no reason to separate the brands. It all could be run by one creative head who was of the mind, like Dana Walden, who was of the mind of all of this social justice nonsense. But why do you run these multiple offices, losing all of these extra millions of dollars? That makes no sense. What also doesn't make sense is they're taking the streaming content they're producing and then they're canceling it after just a few weeks. Disney Plus removed 7-week-old original sci-fi movie from streaming with no warning. This is some $53 million project. They've had cancellations of whatever, it's $1 billion to $1.5 billion worth of content they're going to cancel at least another $4, $5, $6 billion worth of content over the next year or two because they wildly overproduced content during the Bob Chapek years without any kind of sense for how this was actually going to drive or retain subscribers. The clock is ticking for Disney's veteran CEO, who was reinstalled as chief of the Walt Disney Company in November 2022 after a grueling and miserable company earnings call earlier that month cast Disney's financial dealing into a very negative spotlight and put the final nail in the proverbial coffin for then CEO Bob Chapek. In January 2022, rumors about Bob Iger's return to the Disney company as CEO began to take root. That is until Bob Iger told Kara Swisher in a podcast interview, quote, "I always wanted to leave when I felt like I still had it in me to do more, but that things were good and I didn't want to tempt fate." When Swisher told Iger there were rumors about his possible return to the Walt Disney Company, he called the idea ridiculous, saying that he'd already given up his name tag, his office, and his email address with the company. Quote, "It's all gone," he explained. But the rumors weren't heard along Main Street, but around Wall Street, with CNBC reporting that an anonymous executive had predicted Iger's return to the CEO's office suite in Burbank sometime in 2022, citing a continued drop in the price of Disney stock, as well as turf tensions between executives. The unnamed executive further claimed that at the time, there were already internal wagers at Disney. Disney stock is at $89.47. It's a $163 billion company. That's still a very substantial business. However, within the last 5 years, it's been at $197.16. And yeah, that's the high. I mean, you could mark other times and they weren't as high, but they were considerably higher. But 100, so you're less than half of that number? So what's going on at Disney? A lot of bad things are going on at Disney. They need the streaming service to work. It's not working. All of their traditional businesses are under threat, from theme parks to licensing, their cable channels, to their broadcast networks, obviously to their film production, but most crucially to the intellectual property production. If you can't put out compelling properties or maintain the existing compelling properties that you have, if you're going to take The Little Mermaid and turn it into something different, or you're going to take Indiana Jones or Marvel or Star Wars and turn it into something different for political reasons or whatever the reasons, then you're going to be destroying value at the company. Those intellectual properties are the core of what made Disney worth literally anything. And messing around with them is playing with fire, and now Iger is getting burned. Of course, as well as all of the shareholders. I have a friend, Chris, who's listened to a couple of my videos and is a good friend of mine. And he told me the other day when we were talking, "Hey, Adam, I heard one of your videos talking about Disney and you were talking about all the problems, but I went and bought stock of it because I thought that eventually they're going to turn it around." Chris, if you're listening, and anyone else who would consider it, do not trust the management team that don't seem to know exactly what they're doing. The brand of the company is not a guarantee that it's going to turn around and do well in the future. I like when a management team sounds like they know what they're doing, or at least will openly admit they don't know what they're doing, but they're actually working on the problem. Then you can kind of estimate, do they have a chance of actually solving the problem? In the case of Iger, he can't solve this problem. He does not have the skill set. And that's why the company continues to get weaker and weaker. It's a creative problem and it's a structural business problem. And Disney can do a lot of things as a big company with a tremendous history and still unique assets. But they're not doing any of those things. So it's going to continue to get worse until somebody takes on the company as a turnaround. Bob Iger cannot turn around this company. He doesn't have the business skills and he doesn't have the creative skills to be able to go and do something brilliant and unique with these properties. And you do need to do that. You can't go backwards. The succession process that Bob Iger is supposed to be doing yet again to get someone better than Bob Chapek to replace him is off track. Bazinga News reports that the proposal to extend Iger's contract isn't the Disney legend's idea alone. Rather, Iger may ultimately have his contract extended as the Walt Disney Company faces hurdles in finding a successor for Iger when his current contract expires in December 2024. In May 2023, Bloomberg reported that Disney was facing a very rushed succession process as it looks to replace Iger. Peter Chernin, a former News Corp executive, gave some insight into Disney's plight during the Qatar Economic Forum that month. It's a slightly weird thing to say. Within 2 years, I'm out again, Chernin said. On some level, this time next year, the Walt Disney Company should know who his successor is. Of course, they need to know who the successor is because you're supposed to train a successor, show them how you operate, and also get an understanding with people who are under you that this is going to be the new boss and get people comfortable with the new arrangement. Iger is not doing any of that. Leading contender for the roles of Iger's successor suddenly departs. Only weeks after Iger took the reins at Disney once again following Chapek's removal, Disney CFO Christine McCarthy was the frontrunner in rumors about Iger's probable replacement. But McCarthy, along with Bob Chapek and Chapek's entertainment chief at Disney, Kareem Daniel, was named in a class action lawsuit brought against the company by shareholders who alleged the trio engaged in unlawful business practices as they pertain to Disney Plus, the company's streaming platform. Only weeks after the news of the lawsuit broke, McCarthy announced she'd be stepping down from her post on a family medical leave that began on July 1st, 2023. So she's gone already. Many have speculated that McCarthy's alleged involvement in, quote, unlawful business practices at Disney and the impending lawsuit against the company were key factors in her decision to step down. I don't agree with that. I think that's ridiculous. The reason she stepped down is because, and Wall Street Journal covered this, she was pushing for more layoffs, not just the 7,000 employees. She wanted multiple thousands gone beyond that. And she was right about that. There is absolutely no reason they should have all of these employees protecting whatever the Lucasfilm brand was supposed to be, protecting whatever the Marvel brand. These brands don't exist independently anymore. All that exists are the visual logo and the memory of what they were. The employees are not protecting these brands. Even at Pixar, there's no such thing as a Pixar movie anymore by any kind of brand. It's just the logo. Because Iger oversaw the destruction of all of this. He didn't put the right people in place to make sure that the brands had integrity. Christine McCarthy wanted to lay people off and consolidate these operations, which is exactly what I would suggest they do, because even if they wanted to maintain the uniqueness of Lucasfilm and maintain the uniqueness of Marvel, and they wanted to do all of that, you'd actually have to have management who could do that. These people are not available. They don't exist. You can't just snap your fingers. It's not like you place an order for a pizza and someone just delivers you a pizza and a perfect executive. You'd have to put together an entire management team under some visionary. It doesn't happen that way. It takes years and luck and miracles to find the right people to run something in a really passionate and appropriate way. That's not going to be happening for Disney, especially not while Bob Iger is still there. At least CFO McCarthy was going to run the business by the numbers and then protect those business relationships. I'm very disappointed to see her go because I think this is going to be even worse and worse and worse for Disney. With no viable candidates within the company, it's uncertain where Disney will look next for valuable, viable candidates with the skill set, capabilities, and understanding of the necessary creative processes that are imperative for the company's next chief, but it's clear that time is not on the company's side as it proceeds to do so. Here's where Bob Iger went right with Disney. He realized that Disney had so much money, so much value in its stock, so much momentum, and such great brands at the time that he got involved with Disney as the CEO that it could use those things to acquire other great brands at really good prices. $4 billion for Lucasfilm was an incredibly good deal. $4 billion for Marvel, great deal. $8 billion for Pixar. These were all great deals and great business moves. However, you still need to manage them and make sure that the quality stays and that the fans are still interested in the brands. And that's where Iger went wrong. Iger went and ran all of these things like a king, like someone who owned different properties and owned different projects and didn't get involved and start to realize what he did know and what he didn't know about the business. And no matter what business you're in, you can always find help for the things that you honestly don't know how to do. You just have to pay those people. There are people that are very happy to step into those roles and make sure good things happen. But because Iger never rolled up his sleeves and really figured out how these businesses worked, how these brands worked, he stayed far too distant away from the magic of each of these individual brands. And you don't have to define the magic. You can just see what the fans say about the products that you're producing. If you respect your customers, and your customers are the fans plus, the fans who love these individual brands, if you just respect those fans, you'll never go wrong. And Bob Iger never did, and he never will. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you agree that Bob Iger, hey, he got a hold of these incredible brands? That's pretty impressive, but he really should not be staying at Disney. He should get out of there as soon as possible because things are just getting worse as time goes on. Let me know if you agree with that or disagree with it in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Really appreciate you. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.